Hi, and welcome to this week's The Mortgage Broker Broadcast. I'm your host, Craig Skelton. I'm a mortgage business owner, mentor, and coach, and I'm here to help self employed mortgage brokers and business owners build the business that they want. This podcast is made for brokers at every single level, whether you're just starting out in the industry, or you're running your own firm, or you're looking to scale and grow your existing business. And before we get into today's episode, I just want to remind you about the Foundations to Freedom webinar, the webinar that Jonathan Needham and I host. That the next one is on Wednesday, the 4th of September. So if you're thinking about becoming a self-employed mortgage broker, or you're already early in that journey, then this is a free webinar where we give you honest advice, give you honest insight, tips from people that have already done it, and the pitfalls to watch out for. So if you're interested in registering for that, if you email events@thebrokerfoundry.com, and we will send you a link to that webinar. So now into today's podcast. My guest this week is Colin Gill from The Workplace. I wanted to get Colin onto the podcast to talk about a bit about his background in terms of his journey in financial services, but more importantly, talk about The Workplace, what it's doing, why it's set up, how it benefits brokers, how it benefits clients, and helps sort of brokers enhance their proposition and helps them spot opportunities as well that they may have missed. So yeah, let's just get Colin onto the podcast. So welcome onto the podcast, Colin. How are you?
I'm great, thanks, Craig. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Very good. Very good. And first podcast, I understand. This is the first podcast you've been invited
This is
to.
the first time through the Workplace. I've done one podcast before through in another company, but it was very rehearsed, very practiced.
Right.
So
Right. So we'll class it as the first one in your current guys in terms of the workplace.
absolutely, yeah.
So perfect. So hopefully it won't be too painful for you. So in terms of the podcast, and thank you for agreeing to come on. I'm looking forward to. We've had a bit of chat before, but I'm just looking. We have a chat about past and our sort of past did intertwine a little bit
Yeah,
in the past, but then more about what you're doing now and why and how it benefits brokers and clients as well, obviously, because they're just as important. So, but for those of the people that don't know who you are, do you want to just sort of give a quick introduction without too
yeah.
much
So
spoilers?
yeah, so I'm Colin Gill. Currently, I own and run the Will Place, which is a platform purposely designed for mortgage brokers, IFAs, anyone in the financial space to use with their clients who want to offer a really good and efficient will writing service.
Perfect. That was really good. Brief introduction. I like, 'cause
I
like
know.
normally people normally sort of go like going into in depth and thinking, no, we need to be talking about this on the podcast. So no, that's brilliant. So thanks.
It's almost like I demo this every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in terms of do you want to just we're going to get onto the world place and getting in depth in that. Do you want to just give us a past in financial services because you started out
Yeah, sure.
building society world quite a few, even though you don't look old enough, you've been in sort of financial services quite a while.
So my first job in financial services was with Barclays. So I worked in a call center in Doxford Park in Sunderland, and I was atrocious. Like I was so bad at the job. It was outbound calling, so you get a beep in your ear and then the name on the screen. And I was it was in the world before customer service, so it was sell, sell, sell. So my job was to get people who had personal loans to take out more personal loans, and I was so bad, it's so cringe, and I ended up actually crashing my car, and I couldn't get to work anymore, so I had to get a different job. So I ended up working at Leeds Building Society on the counter with the passbooks, paying in their cash, and basically doing everything. I think anyone who's worked for a small building society before will attest that you start off doing that, but the longer you stay, you just get more responsibility. You don't stop doing the original job because everyone ends up doing the same role. You cover each other because there's only normally 4 or 5 of you in each branch. Um, so I worked for Leeds for 4.5 years. I did my mortgage qualifications with them. I was a branch manager with them, worked in different offices, and then I relocated back to Bedford because I studied in London. So currently live in Newcastle, relocated back to Bedford, and I wanted a different job because I was commuting to London. If you imagine a 6'4" frame sat on a tiny 50cc scooter, it's not aerodynamic at all. That's how I was traveling to the train station. So I thought best get another job, and someone suggested being a mortgage broker and an estate agent would be a good idea. And so I just started applying for some jobs, and ended up getting a job for a company called Connells. And from the northeast, I'd never heard of Connells. I had no idea the size of the brand. And you could argue I had really poor interview prep because I still didn't know the size of the brand when I went there. And I stayed there for 11 years, doing various different roles. So yeah, originally worked in their Stony Stratford office in Milton Keynes.
Right.
Uh, and yes, I think corporate estate agency life, obviously there's lots of negatives, and we all understand what those are. But I think there's also a lot of positives that you can learn from that role too. Um, working closely with an estate agent, I know Craig, you've got a similar background to a degree. I think you get a good understanding of just what goes into the role of an estate agent, and more of an appreciation of the job they have to do. Um, and you certainly get a high appreciation for appointments, especially considering because quite a lot of the appointments that I would see on a regular basis would be people who didn't necessarily want to see me to begin with and might have been convinced that it's a good idea to get a second opinion, and to speak to me off that. So yeah, it's not very rare would somebody call up the office and say,
Right.
"Hi, can I have an appointment, please?" Um, they would always be sold. I don't know if you had a similar experience, but when I was an estate agent mortgage broker, I don't think I had many appointments that contacted the office to say,
No,
I'd like to speak to a mortgage consultant, please.
no.
Very rare.
And I think you brushed very well on bypass the whole conditional selling there, Colin. I think you sort of like did that very, very well. That was
Thanks.
yeah, yeah.
Just swerve that one.
Yeah. You did very well with that in that current hot
Thanks.
topic.
Yeah, yeah. It's I think like it's there, isn't it? You can't argue against it. I haven't been that vocal on it online, and I've purposely stayed away from that because I feel a little hypocritical. Because to say that I didn't go close to the line when I was in that role, I'd be I'd be lying, to be honest. I was put into those positions and put pressure to get targets, and convince people to do mortgages with me. Now, as a mortgage broker, I did the best job that I could to place that mortgage, and they always got the best deal that I could get for them. And I feel that I give them a great service, but moving away from it and I suppose seeing it from the outside in, and especially seeing it as much as it's commented on, it's not just Connells that do this. There's lots of different estate agencies. It's just they're the biggest target. They have the largest amounts of agents, largest amounts of mortgage brokers in there. So they're going to come up more and more often than the others who also do it too.
Mhm. I think that it's a good point because I think that's what something that is missed a little bit. We both mutually share that employer in the past. You spent sort of over 10 years there, so 11 years there. So that was sort of good grounding for you, shall we say. I think that is something that is missed a little bit. Obviously, Connells is the target because it's the largest and it's sort of taken over the likes, obviously, and the brands it has within that. And I think
Yeah,
that's what the it misses slightly is that there are you sort of hit the nail on the head there with what you said a little bit back before that coming from a corporate world, you are taught a lot of things. You learn a lot of things in there. You've got the good things that you bring from the corporate world, and then you leave the bad things in that corporate world. So
yeah,
that's the benefit of working for a corporate and then coming away from that. And I think we talk about mortgage brokers leaving the corporate world. What we seem to miss is actually there's estate agents out there that are from the corporate world that are being brought up in the world of like like I was based in Yorkshire with with Connells. Would I ever see conditional selling? No, I wouldn't. I've never actually seen, and I managed. I was a broker. I managed a team, big teams of
Hmm.
brokers. We would never talk about. It was never seen as a conditional saying you have to. There's something you have to do. Obviously, we're in a sales environment, so we're there to persuade clients to get in to see the mortgage broker. But I think that where missed the mark a little bit is because, like you said, there's then, and like I've making my point is that there's estate agents that have come from the corporate world, understand how much mortgage services, the income that that brings to that business,
Yeah,
and then are doing that the same thing, whether they're working for an online agent or another brand or their own brand. I know agents that have set up themselves and still work in that way, or work and have a broker themselves that they
yeah,
work with, and they are still doing that. So it's not just Connells. I think it's just that
no,
obviously the biggest target. I think the whole world of estate agency, there are really good estate agents that don't do like the conditional selling and the sort of the arm behind the client's back, and this is what they have to do to buy this house or view it. However, there are other people that are not, that are hiding behind the comments and hiding behind the covers going, do you know what, I do that, but luckily I'm a small target, so they're never going to worry about me.
yeah. I think you, you make a really good point in the fact that the mortgage services is an ancillary service within a state agency. So it is a business at the end of the day, and obviously, you need to look after your clients because without doing that, you're not going to get repeat business unless obviously you're a massive corporate giant, and maybe that's not your number one concern. Um, who knows? I don't want to get into that, but if
Oh,
if you
podcast that there, Colin.
yeah, if you're if you're a small business, then looking at different revenue streams is just going to be sensible. Any business will do that, and it's making sure that I suppose the behaviours that you use are appropriate for the environment, and you're not, I suppose, forcing somebody to do something by dangling a carrot in front of them, saying you can have this carrot as long as you do X, Y, and Z. So that I suppose that's where it gets inappropriate. But there are so many things, like you said, that you can learn from being in a corporate world and take it away. But I think one of the things I've always found really interesting about my time at Connells was how they're so good at creating this bubble of don't go somewhere else because you won't make it. It won't be better. Stay here. This is where it's good. This is where you'll earn your money. This is where you'll get your career. And I think because so many people join Connells as trainees, they get a lot of people who stay there thinking that that's absolutely right. I mean, myself included, I stayed there for 11 years, not because of fear of going somewhere else, but um, I, I thrived in a reward based environment. So I hit my targets, I got rewarded. You know, I did better at my job, then I got promoted. You know, and I think I responded to that. So I advanced my career, and that's why I decided to stay there. But that they're very good at creating a bubble of safety, I suppose.
Yeah,
I imagine it's probably not different to any other corporate company, but I find
no,
it quite interesting.
no, definitely. And I think like you absolutely, like I said, they've got that, they have that mentality of that you, they put that element of doubt in. If you're a broker going from, and we'll come on to like what you do right now, but if you're a broker going from that kind of environment, start out as a trainee, put you through your CF1 and CF6. That's what they do generally, what they used to do. You then,
Yeah,
but you're getting leads through day in, day out. Generally, you'll have a good diary, or if you're not, then you've got plenty of leads to ring yourself to then have to try and convince to come and see you. And I think that because there's the one thing with any broker going self-employed, there's a lot of things, but the main thing is where am I going to get my leads from? Where am I going to get my business from? An estate agency, the corporate world, whether this is not just Connell, this is like if you're unemployed with that in that world, they understand that that's your element of doubt. So they're going to pin their hopes of retention and keeping you as a broker on the fact that, well, where are you going to get your leads from? Oh, it's tough out there. Have you seen it? Like, they will all put that element of doubt. And if you're not 100% sure on your business model or your route to market or way or all the things that you want to do, that element, you'll then think actually they are right. yeah, I'm gonna just be in this safe zone. I'm gonna play it safe and not brave at being self-employed. And that's for down to each individual in terms of making those decisions. You've
Yeah.
obviously made a different one, as I made a different one, sort of several years ago. And luckily, there are brokers that I know and work with and see that are thinking, do you know what? We know that actually there are people I said that will stay and will have that loyalty and just do and being there. But then that broker that's got it in that little bit out there thinking, is there more to life? Is there something that could I do this myself? And yeah, I've said quite plenty on that subject of being brave and just trusting yourself, trust your gut, and scratch that itch.
But there's so much more you can learn about your own industry as well, isn't there? Like, I don't know about you, but when you came out of that world, it was like, I only know like 30% of what I
Yeah,
should know.
yeah,
There's a whole 70% of stuff that I need to learn. I need meeting people, finding out that other brokers actually want you to succeed. You know, the
yes,
fact that there's people out there that'll have a camaraderie with you, that'll help you, that'll work with you, and I
yeah,
suppose, yeah, it's not a dog eat dog world. It's I think there's some great businesses out there that support one another,
definitely,
um,
definitely.
not
I think
just from
this.
a.
Go on, sorry, mate. Go on, sorry. No, no, go on,
I
continue.
was going to say, just basically just to know that you're not on your own. You know, that you can pick up the phone to someone and just have a little bit of a chat about the latest struggle you're having because you're building your business or you're running something new. Um, you know, it's
Yeah,
there's a lot to learn. I think, but a lot of support out there if you're willing to go out there and make yourself available, I suppose.
definitely. And it's a good point. And like I say, you don't know, you don't realize what the world of mortgage broking is like until you step out of that world. I think
Yeah.
the other, so you learn a lot about being a broker. You, like you say, you're right in terms of the 30% of it. I don't know about you, Colin, but I think good to get your opinion on it. But I think for me, the biggest thing was learning so much about myself. I think that was the sort of the biggest when I look back in terms of as an individual, as a sales manager, how I like my values have always been the same, and I've never stayed away from those. And the people that I managed in that corporate world, I've not changed massively in terms of my interaction with people and how I manage. I don't really manage people now, but I've got people in my business. But it's I've learned so much about myself and changed so much as a human being. Oh, it's 8 years since I left the corporate world behind, just over 8 years ago. I've learned so much about myself and and it makes me smile in terms of thinking actually, yeah, you have changed and you have developed as a human being.
That's huge, isn't it? I mean, outside of just from a working point of view. I mean, I wouldn't say I had a similar experience. I definitely had a. I know I have a moment or had a moment of reflection when I left, because one of the things that I realized about myself, especially in that environment, and it's probably one of the worst traits to have, is I was a serial people pleaser.
Okay.
Not to the people that worked for me, but to the people that are above me. I was always concerned: do they think I'm doing a good job? Are they happy with what I'm doing? And obviously, having that constant thought will only distract you from the job at hand, because you're not doing what you're meant to be doing. You're doing what you think somebody wants to see, or and often, sometimes, and those things will intersect, and you'll do exactly what you should be doing. But depending on what your impressions are of yourself and others, it can have a negative effect too. So I suppose what I'm drilling down to is my own self confidence and belief. I think it took me about a year and a half to 2 years to get to the point where I am now. After I left Connells, I had another job in between. With a It was my first job at a small company. I refer to it as small just purely because I was employed directly by the owners. I'd never had that before, and I reported to them. You know, the brokerage has, I think, close to 23 brokers, so it's
That's
really by no means small. Um, but compared to where I came from, it was, and um, I would say I really struggled in that first year coming away from there. I
right.
think I was definitely still in that process of finding where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do, and coming out of that environment. And I suppose what you were saying about finding yourself and being quite confident in yourself. I was going through that process whilst I was working for somebody else. So not the I would say not the greatest experience for them, because they probably didn't get the best or what they hoped they would out of me. And I think they're great guys, both of them, and I think they both agree with that. That they didn't really get out what they wanted, neither did I. We parted ways amicably, and moved on. But I suppose, again, looking back, it led me to where I am now. So whilst it was uncomfortable to go through, I'm pleased I did, because it started the cogs thinking about where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do.
So that's sort of good timing in terms of moving on then from our talking about our. It's been good conversation because I've enjoyed talking about so far about sort of the corporate world, but then moving on to like you in terms of like how you've developed and talking about the mortgage broker knowledge and the exposure to the industry. So then you're like you've left the corporate world behind, you've done your little bits in between. And so now where you're at now in terms of and how did this come about in terms of what you're now doing?
So I'll call it a gap, yeah. My year that I spent at this company,
So you weren't traveling, we're not talking about a
no, I
gap year,
wasn't
but full on
traveling.
traveling
My
that
mind was gone, much to my dismay and theirs. Um, I suppose it's a blip in my career that I wish I'd delivered more. I suppose that's what I'm probably trying to say.
okay.
But anyway, so my time there, what I was doing was meeting with a lot of different people on behalf of this business, to generate leads, essentially. So like a business development role. And one of the things that was quite common that kept coming up was, I don't mind commission back. That's fine. That's great to receive something for sending a client. But what I'd really love is if I send you a client, if you could send me a client that's relevant to my business. So a sort of exchange. So that was one idea. And then the other idea was getting into I suppose, an industry where I felt it's underserviced quite substantially,
Mhm.
both from a client point of view via their broker and from a financial services point of view. Um, I wouldn't say there's a go-to for any mortgage brokers out there or IFAs. Oh yeah, I work with them or I work with them. There's people who do it who it's a service that's available, but it's not the primary function. So there's a stat that I picked up from the Will Society, who we're a member of. Is under 50s, over 80% of them don't have a will. That's
Wow.
a massive, huge
Wow.
number. And then when you drill that down to under 40s or under 35s, it gets closer to 90 to 95%. Um, and I suppose when you think about the numbers, if I think about when I was in my 20s, my 30s, when I bought my first home, I didn't write a will. Um, I was a mortgage broker. It wasn't until I bought my second home that I did my first will. Um, and there's various different reasons why, I'm sure, that somebody doesn't have a will in place, whether it's financial, whether it's don't think I need it, um, or that maybe they've got that image of some like crusty old solicitor with a quill sat at a leather bound desk that they have to go and have an interview with, and it's all really official and nobody's got a bloody clue what the language is. It's thou, them, shall, all that sort of stuff, and it's so prohibitive. It's that, well, I can't be bothered, or it could just be I've got nothing anyway. They might think in their head, well, I don't have any assets. I'm not a rich person, and I suppose it couldn't be further from the truth. Is the importance to have it in place.
Definitely. I think that's like you say, it's a good point in terms of where you've sort of come from and seen that exposure, seeing that sort of, especially from because what I really like is because you come from that mortgage broker point of view, the mortgage broker space, and thought actually there is a guy, and I think the point that you made, I think, is it tends to be knowledge of consequences with people on the whole will writing, estate planning, is that we don't. For me, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Colin, in terms of like your technique, because obviously you're far nearer to this industry than I am. it seems to be that understanding of consequences with regards to if something happened today to me as an individual,
Mhm.
what are the what will happen and the consequence of not having something in place to then and that knock-on effect. And yes, I may not be bothered because I might not be here and I might not, but then actually, do you care about the future? Do you care what you leave behind? Do you care about where that sort of goes? And so yeah, for me, it always seems to be the knowledge of the consequences that sort of seems to be the educational, the knowledge gap.
I think that's where a lot of brokers can get tripped up because they start with, do you know what happens when you die? Do you know about the laws of intestacy? And it's like nobody wants to talk about that.
No.
And I think the laws of intestacy, yes, obviously they're important to understand as a broker in terms of what happens and what goes where, because it's the more knowledge you have, the easier it is to explain to your client the ramifications of not having something in place. But I like to keep it really simple. And to me, there's two qualifying or three qualifying criteria if you really want to push it for having a will. Are you alive? Are you over the age of 18? And do you have an opinion? Oh, sorry, there's a fourth as well. Are you going to die? And we all hit those. Most of us
Yes.
will hit all of them. Have an
Yeah.
opinion, over 18, be alive, and going to die. It's going to happen at some point. And if you look at it really simply, a will just makes it really easier for the people you leave behind. It just greases the wheels because the paperwork that's involved with somebody dying is massive. And if you've died without leaving instructions, it just gets more complicated, more longer, more drawn out. And then if you've taken advice from a mortgage broker and put life insurance in place, you've then got this massive asset that you've left no instructions for who it's going to. You know that families plus money just usually equals carnage when there's no
Yeah.
instruction.
So yeah. Yeah. And you're not in, but you've got no influence on the situation that's happening that you've created really.
No, not at all. I mean, obviously you can argue till the cows come home. Well, I'll be gone. It doesn't matter. Well, it must to a degree because you've put life cover in place. So you've had the foresight to think, well, I want to make sure that that person doesn't have that burden. Okay, cool. Who's that person? All we need to do is write that down and put that in a document. And I suppose that's where the will place comes in terms of facilitating that and making it really simple and I suppose removing those barriers that I was talking about, because you can do it online. You can do it in 15 minutes, less than that. And it's not one of those WH Smith's DIY kits, that people sort of go on about being the worst thing in the world. Yes, it's you're putting the data in yourself, but the system guides you through it. But we check every single one for you. We look at every single will that comes through our system, and anything that's wrong, we'll get in touch. And you can even ask us to speak to us as well. So if you're going through it and you go, oh, I don't know what I do here, there's a call me function. Give me a call. We'll give you a call within 24 hours, and we'll just, hi, Colin from the Will Place. What's up? And you can run past any scenario you want, and we'll guide you through it.
So in terms of from a broker's point of view, sort of thinking
Mm-hmm.
obviously this is the main audience of the podcast. If I'm a broker, I'll identify opportunities for wills day in, day out. I will identify opportunities, and 99% of the time, I'll do nothing with it. I'll identify the opportunity, I'll identify the need, and then just leave it there. And I'll focus on the mortgage. I'll focus on the protection, and I do understand that, and I do get that. So, from a broker's point of view, how does the will place work for me, and how does it benefit me as a broker?
Why use it over anything else? Essentially, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
um, it's so that's the second part of what we've built. Um, that's why I suppose, appeals to brokers. So what we've built in there is not just a will writing tool for clients, but the system will also analyze all of the data that's put into it. It'll then highlight those risk areas to a client. So if there's shortfalls, and to give you an example of those, it could be the client's got multiple pensions. Then we'll suggest a review with a financial advisor. If the client's got life insurance, but it doesn't quite equal their mortgage balance, we'll suggest that they top it up. If it's not in trust, we'll suggest that they put the policy in trust. Um, if they've got children, we'll give them an indicative price for family income benefit to help their guardians raise their kids. And all of these areas are then put to the client in a really simple way. The client is in the driving seat. They decide whether they want more information or not. If they want more information, then we just send it back to its source, which is you, the mortgage broker. So we don't take any of those. We don't do anything with them. They all come back to you. There might be some people in the who watch this and think, well, I service all of my clients really, really well. And I'm sure you do. That's great. And if you pick up on every opportunity, well done. That's brilliant. But there may be clients who you, I suppose, make recommendations to who may not be ready to hear that. And may say no just because they're not in the headspace to make that decision. And our system could be a second chance just to highlight that in a different way. It could be that when you speak to the client on whatever product you arrange, especially if it's a longer term product, 'cause I know that that's used for affordability sometimes, it could be that their circumstances dramatically change, and our system will keep in contact with that individual. So when their circumstances change, we regularly get in contact with them on a biannual basis to make sure that their will is still up to date. So if they have any children, that sort of thing, then their priorities and circumstances may change. So they may change their attitude towards life cover or to family income benefit. So no matter where they are in that process, as soon as they decide that they want more information, you get a notification that the client would like to speak about life insurance or family income benefit. So it's a great way of, I suppose, capturing additional business from your existing client bank. But we take it a little step further. So all of your clients need to appoint an executor. So usually there's at least one executor or two on a will. Traditionally, an executor will be a brother, a sister, a close family friend, someone who is of a similar age to the person who's writing the will. And then the same thing for a guardian. Again, it's normally brother, sister, or a close family friend. So we'll contact them on your behalf. We'll let them know that your client has written a will, and then we'll offer them the ability to write a will through your system, essentially, that's linked to ours. So you're getting new data from those guardians, from those executors, that you won't have in your CRM at the moment and not in your client base, unless obviously that client's recommended them directly, if they just so happen to buy at the same time. But I mean, if you haven't got that weird twist of fate where somebody just happens to be buying at exactly the same time, then our tool will give you that data. It gives you the client's name, date, address, email address, telephone number. So if they have a shortfall in a life cover on a mortgage that you didn't arrange, then that's far more valuable to you than any revenue that you could get from a will. Now, the reason why I'm talking about no revenue from a will is because the other way we get clients to do this is we have a model where we offer clients wills for free. So they don't pay anything at all. So there's no barrier for entry for that client to complete that will.
Okay. So that I'm understanding more about sort of like the business model that you have and the benefit, which is the main thing to, which is sort of another benefit as well. But the benefit to the broker in terms of spotting opportunities, because we know what it's like as a broker. You've been there, I've been there. We know what it's like when you're in that sort of the day to day of another lead coming in and another client's call and another follow up and another
Mm-hmm.
case progress. I think if you do maximize every single opportunity as a mortgage broker, you're in the top 1%. I said before, like 99% of brokers will not talk about every single thing. Financial advice, like you say, spotting about pensions and they're having three pensions in different places. Well, you need to be reviewing that and looking at putting them in one place generally. That's normally like sort of the thing that certainly need to be reviewing it. And I think the four questions is good from that point of view of like what you sort of talk about the over 18 and the rest of it. It's sort of they're quick answers to go, well, yes to everything. I do have an opinion. Most people do have an opinion. So it's like, well, that's well you answered yes to all four. This is what we need to do. And I think that from a broker point of view, so just so I'm clear, in terms of so you can offer as a broker, you could offer something. So I say, right, I work with the will place and I offer every single one of my clients a free will. That's how it sort
Correct.
of work. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So that's
So
how. Go on. Sorry. Go on. I'll let you
yeah,
fit that.
so we charge we charge you a firm essentially a very very low monthly payment, which is fixed. It doesn't change. So your firm pays us a monthly subscription, and in return, you get a dual branded link from us, so you can have your logo sat next to ours, and you can use that link with your existing clients to offer them a will that they don't have to pay for. Now, I would encourage, and I do encourage the people that work with us to avoid the word free, because sometimes it creates unnecessary barriers.
Yeah.
Um, so I would suggest when you're talking to a client that it's really simple, that you're buying an asset. As your advisor, I suggest that you put a will in place. We think it's so important that we've partnered with the will place, and we cover the cost for you to put a will in place. So I'll send you the link for you to start writing your own will. But don't worry, because their advisors will check your document to make sure that it's legally valid, and it'll be a full professional will at the end. That's not going to cost you anything other than 15 minutes. Um, and I think the other thing to come on to for mortgage brokers is a will fact find is exceptionally exposing. So if they don't do it with you, someone will suggest that they get a will in place. So if it's not you, it'll be someone else. And in that fact find, literally everything, because it's all about assets and liabilities. So not just about the loans that they have, it's about where their savings are, how much they have, what they've got invested, who it's managed by, what pensions they have, the value of those pensions, who they're with, all of those things that a mortgage broker may not go into in as much detail or may not record all of those. All of that is exposed. So who their life covers with. So then you've then got a client that is potentially at risk of being referred somewhere else, depending on who that will writer works with, because they'll have referral partners.
Yeah.
They will, because that's where most will writers get their leads from. It's
Yeah.
financial advisors and other mortgage brokers. So if your client's being put in front of a will writer that you haven't introduced them to, then you've got a risk essentially, because even if that need isn't a service that you offer primarily as a business, like you may not do pensions. Quite a lot of mortgage brokers don't have a financial advisor within their brokerage. But I'm sure most of them know someone or could refer someone to them to make sure that that need is serviced within their business network.
Mhm. I think that's it. Like it's overall protection of client as well. So forget the
Yeah,
whole holistic advice, consumer duty, and all the rest of it. It's about protecting your client. So, like you say, you are. I think the thing is what I've noticed with, even though clients will open up to brokers, they will, the good brokers, the client will open up. They'll feel like their friend, and they will tell them a lot of information. I think with Wilrat, I don't know what it is with Wilrat. They do open up even more. Like I don't know why it is. It's just that's just a fact. Like that is just fact that I've seen when they're sort of going through the world. They just open up a little bit more because actually, this is how it is. There's not the guard there thinking, "Well, the broker's going to try and sell me something, or I need to tell me the latest information as possible because I want to get this mortgage sorted out." And this is something that, whereas a will, you're not going to say yes or no, you're approved for your will. It is your will. That's your will. It's your choice to
yeah,
what you're
you
doing.
already qualify.
You've already
Yeah, you're
qualified for
approved.
it. So yeah, exactly. So yeah,
The
four
I think
questions
that
approved. That's
one of
it.
the reasons behind that, I think, is because of where the questions go. So I mentioned it earlier on that some people have the misconception that they have to have assets to have a will, but the most common gifts that I outline in a will for somebody that I'm writing are not financial. They have high emotional value. So it's about, oh, that was my dad's ring. It's not worth anything financially if I've melted it down, but I want my son to have it. Yeah, let's make sure he has it. Describe
Yeah.
the ring. And it's those sorts of things that they can put down into a document. And one of the hardest questions I have to ask is about guardians, who they want to raise their children if they're not there, and
Right.
then who they want to inherit if the horrible thing that most parents don't even want to consider, if their kids predecease them. That it's just it's not a nice thing to talk about sometimes,
No.
but you have to ask those questions. So it becomes exceptionally emotive. for some people. But you've got people in that headspace sharing, I suppose, thoughts about things that they wouldn't normally talk about that often. So I think that's probably why it's so exposing and why people open up so much.
Mhm. Good point. Yeah, it's a good point. I've not thought it that way. So we've talked about from a broker aspect in terms of, and we'll obviously at the end we will put the links in the show to contact you and look at how to sort of have a bit more discussion about the will place and yourself. But we sort of talked briefly there about from a broker's point of view, but from a client's point of view, from a client's experience, what does that look like?
Yeah, so client obviously gets the link. They can use any device. Because it's URL based, it's just a web browser. So whether it's a mobile, tablet, or laptop, it's so simple for them to access. And they can come back anytime. So the system will save their progress as they go through. There's only 5 steps to go through. The first one is where you live, your name, your date of birth, telephone number, contact details, that sort of thing. Second one is all about what you own. So your assets, basically where you live, if you've got any savings, where your pension is, who your life covers with, if it's in trust, that sort of thing. Step 3 is about guardians. Now you can appoint guardians for your children, but also for your pets. So some people don't think about that what happens to their dog, and some people it's a really high priority depending on where that sits. So you could do that too. Then your executors, mentioned that before, so they would just appoint who they want to administer their will. Now it should cover every single step as the client goes through. They have a really brief explanation that tells them what each section's about, what they're filling in, and who would be good for those particular roles. So if it's guardians or executors, we explain who would be good to fulfill those. And then the final step is just about gifts, if they want to make any gifts to any individuals, and then dividing their estate. And then literally that's it, they're done. If you sat down and did it right now, you could fill it out in about 10 to 15 minutes. Because
Okay.
we don't take highly sensitive data, so we're not taking sort codes, we're not taking account numbers. All we're taking is location and values.
Okay.
So, I've got my savings with the post office, and I've got £500 in that account, that sort of thing. Um, so once they've done that, the will is then put into something called a draft status. So it's all watermarked. Client can see their will immediately on their device, however they've accessed it, so they can read through it. And for a lot of people, that might be the first time they've seen a will, so they can see what the language is like. It's really plain, really simple, really straightforward. So if they can check for spelling, if they want to go back in and think, actually, I want to add another gift, or I want to change that percentage of who I've allocated my stuff to slightly, they can do that straight away. And then me, or one of the team at the will place, will check the will. So the things that we're looking for, we'll go through the fact find and make sure that what they've put in there matches their circumstances. And we'll also look at things like, have they read the instructions? Because not everybody does. So quite frequently we'll end up with a 2-year-old executor, that sort of thing. So
Right.
it's saying, right, so we need somebody who's 18 or over, and we'll contact the client. Ideally, if we can speak to them, we will. If we can't get a hold of them, then we'll send an email just outlining why we want to speak to them and what changes they need to make. And then we'll unlock that will, i.e. remove the watermark, and then give them signing instructions. So that client can print it on any kind of paper they like, and then they've got full signing instructions from us. And as I said before, they can contact us at any time. So I suppose the great thing for the broker is they're removed from that process. It's not something that they have to get involved with. So they aren't going to get calls and saying, what do I do here for my will? How do I do this? Because it's all there for the
Yeah.
client. So, yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. Like I say, it's all about, I think from a client point of view, if you're easing out the process and you're there at hand, like you said before, you've got that call button to sort of then at least speak to somebody if you are struggling with that help or the language or whatever case that the questions might be that come up. So that no, I'm getting a good picture from a broker point of view. I'm getting a good picture from a client point of view, and that sort of make. And I think we didn't sort of in terms of where's the will place going in terms of obviously we understand your past, we understand where you are now. Is there any plans to develop, change, or enhance, or anything like that?
So we own all the tech for the Will Place. Everything that we have, we've built in-house. So our main goal is to just make our system more intuitive, better at what it does. So every quarter, we bring updates to the platform. So currently, we operate in England and Wales. By the end of the quarter, we'll also operate in Scotland. By the
Okay.
end of the year, we'll also operate in Northern Ireland. Now, the reason why we're not in Scotland and Northern Ireland is they have slightly different legal jurisdictions and slightly different formats for their wills. So that it needs to be adjusted and it needs to be slightly different in terms of the questions that we ask. Lasting power of attorney is then the other missing piece, I feel, because I think arguably that's more important than a will, having a lasting power of attorney in place. And we'll be adding that onto our system. And the idea behind that is not only can we make sure that a client understands the need for a lasting power of attorney and why somebody under the age of 50 would think it's a good idea, but also we think we can generate leads for income protection and critical illness from our risk assessment back to our mortgage brokers for that too. So we have two clients really in mind. We have our business clients who are our brokers and our IFAs who use our platform, and we want to make sure that they are serviced well. And then we've also got our end user, our actual client who writes a will on the platform. So we want to make sure they understand the need and why they might want income protection and critical illness and how that pairs up with a lasting power of attorney. And the real simple explanation is you guys take care of the financial, but remember we've got that GDPR thing in the background, that thing that kind of stops anybody talking to you about anything. If you imagine you've got an individual critical illness policy, your client can't phone your insurer, then how do they claim? So that's where the lasting power of attorney can come in and be really helpful and marry up with it. It can help navigate those areas. It may just be that they don't want to deal with it, so they can delegate that authority to somebody else to deal with it on their behalf. And an LPA just really deals with the legal, while the insurance policy will deal with the financial.
Absolutely. That's a good point. It's a good point. So just to I think just to wrap things up, Colin, from a the overlooking the overall looking at our industry and looking at what brokers do day to day, it benefits the brokers for two things. It's because it's enhancing the client experience with that broker. It's
Yeah,
also protecting their sales and the retention of that client, which is a big thing for me in terms of that if they then go on Google and look for a will writer locally, and then all of a sudden they refer to somebody else about the protection and somebody else, and then all of a sudden they're then about the pension, and then all of a sudden that IFA is getting into the protection and getting into the mortgage, and then you've lost the client, and that's so then
yeah,
for no real, you've not done anything wrong, you've just not maximised the opportunity and with that particular client. So it benefits the broker of referring to somebody that they know and trust. They're going to get a branded thing that looks like it's part of them. It's offering a benefit to their service as well. So if they are charging a broker fee and sort of saying you're going to get a will sorted out at our cost as part of that deal, that's another sort of way to look at it. And also as
yeah.
well, so it benefits the broker for client retention. It obviously helps them spot opportunities that they may have missed and sort of then can look at how they can enhance their process with that as well. And then it also benefits their clients. So which is more likely to win on referrals, more likely to win on 5-star reviews and all those kind of things. So the whole client journey is looked after by referring to and working with somebody like yourself. So yeah, it's been yeah.
That and the added bonus that the leads we send back to you from a revenue point of view would be much higher than what you would do from a standard will referral.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Colin, hopefully your first podcast as in the World Writing Place wasn't too bad. We've sort of gone on for sort of over 45 minutes. So yeah, hopefully it wasn't too bad and quite a pleasant first experience.
I really enjoyed it, Gray. I think at some point you might be worried if I was going to come up for air, but I am. No, it's good.
Good.
enjoyed it.
No, it's been great to chat and like really appreciate your time to come on. Obviously, I wanted to talk about the World Place and what you're doing there. So people are interested. We'll put the links in the show notes about how to reach out to. You can find like Colin Gill on LinkedIn. They can find you on there, and obviously you've got links to your website and things like that on there as well. So people should find it easy enough to find you and to reach out. And yeah, really enjoyed our conversation. It was good to talk about what I didn't expect to get out was more. It was a little bit about past and journey into the self-employed world, and your honesty as well in terms of what that looked like initially and where you are now. And it's just been great to chat. So I really appreciate your time, Colin. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Colin. Thanks for agreeing to come on the podcast. It was obviously your first experience of the podcast from and being at the World Place. So I really appreciate your time. Gave a good account. Totally understand what you're offering in terms of the benefits from a broker point of view and a client point of view as well. So I really appreciate your time and thanks for coming on. And then just a reminder, the Foundations to Freedom webinar, Jonathan Needham and I, next one is Wednesday, the 4th of September. So if you email events@thebrokerfounder.com, we'll send you the link. And yeah, just if you think about going self-employed as a broker or very early in that journey as well, I think you'll benefit from attending the webinar and listening to what Jonathan and I have got to say. And as always, if you found today's episode useful, please don't forget to follow the podcast, leave a review. We share it with other brokers or business owners that you might feel will benefit from the podcast. And if you are thinking about becoming a self-employed mortgage broker, or you're looking to start your own business as a mortgage broker, or you're looking to grow and scale your existing business, go to my website, craigskeleton.co.uk, book a discovery call, send me a WhatsApp, whatever the case may be. Let's just have a chat about how I can help you achieve your goals for the rest of 2025 and for long term as well. And as always, please don't forget to run your own race.